Of allegations surrounding Kevin Spacey. More on that to come. Also, more details emerging of sexual harassment in Westminster. You're going to hear from two female MPs on what needs to change and why your love of dogs might be curtailed if you live in South Lancashire. That's all to come from 10:30.
Thank you very much. So tomorrow night it's all about the Champions League. Commentary of Roma against Chelsea. That's Tuesday, and then Spurs against Real Madrid on Wednesday, on air from 6:30. Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy follows the latest BBC News.
More live Premier League football than anyone else. This is BBC 5 Live.
With the BBC News on 5 Live, I'm Richard Foster. Ministers have promised to take action within days to improve the way sexual harassment claims are dealt with in Westminster. The Commons Speaker, John Bercow, says there must be a zero-tolerance approach. Alex Chalk is the Conservative MP for Cheltenham.
I do think it's incredibly important that we understand that there is a spectrum of behaviour. At one end, there's stuff which is really serious. I mean, rape is unspeakably dreadful. At the other end, there might be things which are inappropriate or gauche or just slightly unpleasant. And in the middle, there might be things which might get you convicted in a court of morality, but not in a court of law.
A father and several of his children are feared to have died in a fire at a farmhouse in Powys. 3 other youngsters escaped and are now in hospital. One of the people unaccounted for has been named locally as David Cuthbertson, who's believed to be in his 60s. The Northern Ireland Secretary James Brokenshire has extended the deadline for the region's 2 main parties to reach a deal to restore power sharing at Stormont. He says they made progress in talks today and the government needs to consider their latest requests. Netflix is cancelling its hit series House of Cards after claims about its star Kevin Spacey. The actor has apologised for allegedly making sexual advances towards a 14-year-old boy in the 1980s. The upcoming 6th series of the show will be the last. President Trump's former campaign manager has denied charges of conspiring against the United States and money laundering. Paul Manafort was charged as another Trump advisor, admitted lying to the FBI about contact with Russians. Our North America editor John Sopel has more.
This is not going to be over quickly as the White House would like, and the White House is trying to deflect attention onto the Democrats and problems they might have had in terms of the Russians. This is not the end, maybe it's the end of phase 1. And within the White House, I would imagine now, a good deal of anxiety.
And there have been calls to ban the Coca-Cola truck from Liverpool this Christmas because of concerns about obesity. Richard Kemp, the leader of the Lib Dems on the City Council, says the festive lorry promotes a grossly unhealthy product. A company spokesman says sugar-free drinks are also on offer.
Here at Turf Moor, Burnley beat Newcastle by 1-0. Jose Mourinho said striker Romelu Lukaku should be untouchable from fans' criticism. Troy Deeney has been charged with violent conduct after clashing with Stoke's Joe Allen. And Bury have sacked their manager Lee Clark after just 8 months in charge. Coming next on 5 Live Sport, Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy.
Get more from BBC 5 Live with 5 Live podcasts.
Just released, Bunce's Tales of the Extraordinary.
I'm Steve Bunce, and in this new podcast, Caroline Barker and I discuss some fascinating stories of sporting endeavour.
There are men fighting bears, bonkers winter Olympian playboys, and countries going to war over a game of football.
It's all in Bunce's Tales of the Extraordinary.
Search 5 Live in your podcast app.
Get more from BBC 5 Live.
That's a magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number.
What does it all mean?
Hello and welcome to Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy. That's me, Matthew Syed. Another set of meaty topics. The one moment in our careers that we'd most like to relive. Things that we've said that have come back to haunt us. And then we're going to discuss things that scare us Halloween week. Remember, you can use the hashtag FredSavSide to get in touch for future topics. And we're going to get straight into it with our first topic. So, we've all seen some amazing moments in sport this week. But first, we're going to discuss what was the one moment in each of our careers we'd most like to relive, for whatever reason. Could be a personal reason. It could be an amazing achievement. Robbie, what would you think?
So, for me, it would be going back to probably my childhood. It was my father. We had a team. So I played for Clyde United, was my first team. I didn't start playing in sport for a team other than school under 12s. You know, so now you got kids under 7, under 8s. My first.
Why was that? Because there weren't any, or
yeah, there were. I was just playing for my school team, and then where we lived in a little estate, and in the middle of the estate there was a green, and we used to always put the jumpers down for the goalposts, play with the older boys, and that was my fun. You know, I'm sure we've all experienced it, and people listening that used to go out at 9 o'clock in the morning, the holidays, and get in when it went dark.
Yeah.
You know, and so I never played for a team. So my first experience of a team was under 12, Sly United. Played for them, and then my father had a team called Bradley Park. Yeah, so it was under 14, and it was a day I got scouted. I don't think. Yeah, it's a day I got the fee. So basically, I'm playing for Bradley, and we're playing against Sly United, my old team. So anyway, we played at Plas Koch, and now it's not there anymore. It's like a big Sainsbury's on it. So it was there, and it was like the place to play if you get. It was a semi-final. And basically, we're playing against Sly United, and I was playing midfield, and I didn't know there was a scout on the side of the pitch. Right. He was called Hugh Roberts, fantastic gentleman, and I didn't know at the time he was there. So in this game, I'm playing, and I've got the ball, and getting the ball off the back four, I'm running all over the place, and I scored a goal in the top corner, and like we won the game 2-1. So the elation afterwards with all your pals in the change room, I remember. So I'm in the game. Mum was the kit lady, and she was getting all the kit up. And anyway, this gentleman at the time, now when the story comes out, Hugh Roberts, who was a Man United scout, tapped my mum on the shoulder. True story. And she said, he said to her, "Oh, excuse me." He didn't know her name. He obviously did. Mrs. Savage. He said, "Excuse me." What am I talking about?
Well, he just took a stab in the dark. That's Robbie's mum. What's that called? It's a tricky one, this. I don't know, Mrs. Savage. Oh, yes, I got it.
He was Welsh.
I don't doubt it. You're in Wales.
Yeah. He found Mark Hughes as well. So he tapped.
What did he call his mum?
So anyway, tapped on the shoulder. "Excuse me, Mr. Savage." He said, "Where's number 7? I think it was number 7's father."
Oh, he's not my boy.
Yeah. So she said, "Oh, excuse me, I've got too much to do. Sorry, I'm just putting the kit away." And then he walked off, but he gave her a card. He gave her a card, and she obviously just put it in her pocket. So we're driving home, and in the car, my dad had a Ford Cortina. It was. I remember the. Do you know what? I remember the registration. UTU 525R.
Thanks.
Yeah.
1.6.
1.6.
My dad had one of them maroon one.
And it had beige cloth seats. Right. Yeah. Honestly, and so we're driving home. We won the game 2-1. We were in the cup final, and as we're driving home to 3 miles, my mum said, "Oh, this old fella came up to me and he give me this card." And when she pulled it out of the pocket, Manchester United scout.
Wow. So
we've all gone, wow, what do we do? So anyway, we phoned him when we got home, and he said, because my dad wasn't available, because he was taking the nets down. Yeah. My mum was doing the kit. Yeah. So we rung him. He said, "Listen, I've been so impressed with your boy. We'd like for him to come to, it was the Halls of Residence in Salford for trials." Yeah. Went to trials.
Well, just wind back a bit. When your mum pulled that card out, and then you made that phone call.
Yeah, but imagine me.
How was you feeling?
I was in the back of the car. She pulled it out and it said Manchester United scout. Mum, what do you speak to him for? What are you doing? I missed the chance. You know, he's a Man United scout. You're putting the kit away. You know, imagine a 14-year-old kid. What are you doing, Mum? Oh, my God, I stuck out and crying. I've missed the chance. Yeah. You know, we rung him, and it was like my mum, my dad all hugging, all crying. Listen, because at that time, you think, that's it, I've made it. Yeah. But it was obviously from that point, there's so much to do. So that, reliving that moment when you are, you know, you're playing for your local side, and then a Manchester United scout taps your mum on the shoulder while she's putting the kit away to take it home, to put it all on the washing line. So in that back garden, you'd have 14 kits hanging up on the washing line, which is stuck to one tree in the fence, you know, as it was in the day. And then you're going to go to Manchester United. It's like that moment with a family to think, that's my son. I can imagine my son, because it happened with my son. It's like, wow. So that experience of driving back in that Cortina with the cloth seats, my mum putting the card out, that emotion then think, Oh, my word.
But in a
That is
funny kind of
amazing.
a way, it's even more extraordinary than... I mean, you've played in the Premier League, so your son kind of has some insight about what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
Your parents have never been in that
No, never
situation.
been.
Suddenly you've got this kind of sliding doors moment. But your mum washed the kits, your dad coached the side. Amazing.
You told her what it was like when you found out you was going to go.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of kids now who they get asked to trial for teams, they get asked to go for things, and it is one of the most... Oh, it's one of the most nerve-wracking moments of your life. When you was going...
Yeah, I tell you.
What was it like when you was in the car going to Man United for the first time?
So it was to the trials.
The Salford trials.
So it was a week at the halls of residence in Salford.
Mm-hmm.
We all stay there, and then you would go to Littleton Road or the Cliff for the trials.
Yeah.
All these guys turned up. There must have been 30, 40 people from all over the country. Huge. I was a little skinny one. I was looking at these guys thinking, what chance have I got here? What chance have I got? And I remember...
You were intimidated.
Yeah, I remember my dad driving out of the Cliff car park in his Cortina, waving, tears rolling down his eyes, my mum. And then I'm there on my own, never been away from home, never been on a school trip, because I just wanted to play football. So I'm there with my little bag. It was a Nike bag, and I think it was a Times. Do you remember in my bag, remember those Nike jackets, half and half with the V?
Yeah.
Remember there's like blue and red, grey and...
Yeah.
So I had one of those in my bag. I had about couple of T-shirts, and the plan was Monday to Friday. At the Friday, parents pick you up. Mm-hmm. Remember, Monday, done okay. Tuesday...
What kind of things were you doing?
So just games.
Yep.
Obviously, different games, different teams. I remember the Friday, parents were allowed to come and watch before you picked up. It was a make or break game. And I remember, and this is on my, I'll never forget this, and it's God's honest truth, that my dad was there, and I remember I had... As Freddie said in previous podcasts, as a sportsman or in any job you do if you've done well. And I remember on that game, we played against a Swiss side, I think it was, and I was playing centre forward, and this is probably rung true the rest of my career. I couldn't control the ball. I was bag of nerves. Fergie was there. Fergie was at the game the first time he turned up, and probably that's why I was nervous looking at Sir Alex.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything. I was horrendous. And this is where there's hope for everybody. It was the worst performance I think I had in my junior career. Mm-hmm. So my dad's put his arm around me coming off the pitch saying, we've done your best, son. I said, yeah. But he knew, I knew. And he went home. I remember they were in tears. My mum saying he's done his best, but he wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. And that night, Hugh phoned up my house and he said, you never believe it, they're going to offer him a 4-year contract. Fergie seen something in him which he wants to sign for 4 years.
What was it? Did he tell you?
Never told me. To this day, I don't know.
You're going to ask him?
I want to see him.
You must ask him.
I was awful, but he's seen something on that day which he must have thought, right. And 4 years, so from 14, I signed till I was 18, and that was serious. So I had the worst performance of my life in junior football, yet Fergie, who's been the greatest manager, seen something on that day which made him think we signed that boy for 4 years.
I can see how much that means to him.
Yeah, it does,
man.
Amazing.
What then? Just slightly different. Any kids now going for a trial or get scouted, what would you say to them?
I would say that I would take my example that expect the nerves, expect to play poorly because the nerves do take over. Because it was in the first 5 or 10 minutes, I was doing nothing right. Then you think, do I try a bit harder? I was trying everything. Nothing, couldn't do anything. So I would say to anybody, go there. You will be nervous. You might play bad, but there might be something that a coach sees in you which nobody else will see, and you might have a chance. But I think the difference is there, I think you've hit the nail on the head, Matthew. With me going to Manchester United as a trial, there was no pressure on me from my parents. I think now the pressure in life from parents, because they see the rewards, is harder for children. For me, there was no pressure.
I mean, it's an extraordinary thing that moment,
amazing,
that game, it created a totally different trajectory in your life. Yeah. How did your mum and dad react?
Imagine. It's just like,
because they're both football. I mean, they love the game.
I can see Val's face now.
Val, yeah, she had this massive curly grey hair. It was like
Brian May.
It was like Brian May. It was. It was.
Sorry, Val. Sorry, I just thought curly hair. I was going to say Anita Dobson.
What I'll do is I'll try and get a picture and I'll put it on my Twitter. Mum, when I signed for Manchester United, said this big grey Brian May. It looked like her hair was like all like that. So
the other kids during the trials, did any of them go on to become Premier League players? That you can remember?
Bex was there. Bex, John O'Kane, who played for Manchester United and played for Everton. And I'm not sure who else. I don't think anybody else. There was different trials. It was always in school holidays. And the difference then to is now, I used to go to Manchester United in school holidays. I was signed at 14 as a schoolboy, just used to go on school holidays, and then at weekends. So, yeah, that was...
Did you have... Because Bex moved up and lived in digs adjacent to the cliff,
when I was 15, when I left school, then I'd moved in digs.
Yeah. With him?
He was in a different digs. Yeah, there was 16 and a half. So that was mine. Fred,
Brilliant.
What was yours?
Yeah.
What, relive?
Yeah. One moment in your career.
One? Can I pick two?
It's got to be sport.
Two. Two. One of them, which bothers me, and it shouldn't do as much as it does. And I was playing for England, and it was a test match at Old Trafford against the West Indies. Mm-hmm. And I was batting number 6. Graham Thorpe was injured, so he couldn't bat, so I went in number 5. And we needed something like 70-odd to win on a used pitch, and the game was in the balance. Rob Key, who I love to pieces, was batting. Mm-hmm. So me and him very rarely got the opportunity to bat together. And I've gone out to bat, and this is it. It's me and Keezy. Keezy's on a few not out. He's probably on about 80-odd, closing in on his second test 100.
Yeah.
I go in. I'm thinking, I want to get this done. I want to get this game done. And I was getting peppered, I was getting hit, I was getting all sorts. I wasn't playing particularly well. And Keezy was talking me through it at the other end, because he was the best player of fast ball with. And then I just started playing shots, and I started hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And then Keezy, I think, was on about 89. And we needed... he ended up with 93 not out, Keezy. And we needed 12 to win. And the spinner was on. And I went down and I said, Keezy, I'm not going to score a run now. I want you to finish this game and get your 100. And I was on, 40-odd. Mm-hmm. And he says, no, he calls me Trev. He said, no, Trev.
Why Trev?
Yeah, why?
It was one of my aliases when I went for Killarney and all that. I used to call myself Trevor Jesty.
Oh, yeah.
So... he says, no, Trev, best thing that can happen here is that we walk off this field together having won the game. All right? I said, well, what about your 100? He says, I'm not bothered. And I think, you probably are. So I went back down the other end, the next 2 balls for 6 and walked off, we'd won. And as happy as I am that we won, it still burns me.
Yeah, really? You wish you had done it in a different way.
That Keezy
didn't get his 100.
Should have scored should have got his second. And that do you know what? It really bothers me, that.
Really?
Even to this day.
Wow.
And when I look at Keezy and I speak to Keezy, he's not bothered, I'm sure, but I still feel there's that between us.
Wow.
So that bothers me.
So that's a moment you like to relive, so you could change it.
I'd just drop anchor at the other end, I wouldn't score another run and let him get
To be fair, when you both batted together, it's probably you could get off to the buffet quicker.
He was salivating, as was I. I was thinking, we're not getting soon.
Battle of the buffet.
Or them chicken goujons will be gone in the dressing room. The other one is, it's not contentious, but it might raise a few eyebrows. I shouldn't have taken the England captaincy. I shouldn't have taken it. It was at a time where Michael Vaughan was getting injured a lot, and he couldn't play, and he missed periods of time. Marcus Trescothick was heir to the throne. He was missing some matches.
Would it be Marcus Trescothick?
Yeah, but then in Pakistan, there was Michael went home. It was between me and Marcus for the captaincy, and Marcus got it. And then Marcus had his problems in India, and I was due to go on from India to watch the birth of Corey, my second child, but I got the option of being captain, so I stayed on, which, for different reasons, was the wrong choice. But then, looking back at it, I think my motives for taking the England captaincy, I won't say weren't just, because they were. You want to do the best job that you possibly can. You want to be...
Yep.
Growing up as a kid...
It's a great honour, isn't it?
Yeah, you want to be England captain.
Yeah.
And the problem with it was going up to the Ashes in 2006-07, which we had a complete shocker.
Yeah.
Me all the way through the team. Rubbish. And building up to it, I wasn't fit. I was rushing back from injury. And I didn't know if I was going to be captain. My focus was getting fit. It was getting fit as I possibly could be. And I turned up on that tour, physically fit, but not match fit. I'd not played. I wasn't right. And building up to it, it was, who's going to be captain? It almost became like X Factor, a competition. Yeah. You know, they should have had a phone in. Because it was, who's going to be captain? Strauss. He wanted to do it. I wanted to do it. Kind of. Yeah. I did because I wanted to be England captain. But then I also got lost in what other people wanted me to do. And when I took it, there was something which didn't sit quite right. Yeah. Was, one, can I do this job? Maybe. Why am I doing it? Is this really for the good of the team?
Did you talk to anyone about whether it was the right thing for you?
Not really. I should have done. I should have spoke to people around me, but I got whipped up in this like competition of who's going to be captain, and we weren't going to get unveiled till they unveiled the team. Yeah, and that also caused its own problems. I remember turning up at the Oval to be unveiled as England captain, and then my team was unveiled. I had no say in the team. I would have picked half of them. Yeah, so I was announced with the team, and looking back.
How come you didn't ever say? Normally captains have some influence on selection.
But I think this was all part of it. They wanted the team they wanted. So if we announced the captain at the same time...
right.
Then it does... Yeah. And looking back, I realised my role in the team was I bat, I bowl, I'm a character in the dressing room. And through that, I can be a great right-hand man for the captain. And I can lead in my own way by being one of the lads. I love being one of the lads. Yeah. I don't like being this position of power. For me, as a person, as a player, that wasn't me. Yeah. And I had this captaincy thing, and it did me in over them 5 test matches in Australia. I've never doubted myself or been as insecure about myself, and I drank a little bit too much at times, probably compensating for that. So looking back, I shouldn't... It's on my CV, and I've got a nice cap, and I had a couple of times when it went really well. But that was when I was playing well, I thought I could captain, because if it needs doing, I'll do it myself.
You know, it's really interesting that this topic, I, like you, Robbie, interpreted it as reliving something that went well. Yeah. Because you're always looking to improve, you're actually looking back at the things you wish you would have done differently, so you could relive the decision moments.
But I can look back in my career, and you look at all the great things that happened in my career, and I'm not talking myself up. There were some amazing things, and I was so lucky, and I'd worked hard, and I loved it. But I don't really remember.
But you don't really relive the moment, the famous celebration.
The Brett Lee moment.
The fifth wicket, and Can I be
honest with you?
What a moment that was.
I don't remember what it feels like.
Really?
I can't now. I can't sit here, and I've seen it on telly, and I've seen it not through watching it when it's just been on. And I watch it, and I don't identify with the bloke doing that. I think...
Because you look like you're lost in the moment.
I was for that moment, but I can't tell you what it was like. And I look at it, and I think, look at him there, he's lapping it up, milking it a bit. But I don't think, that was me, that's me, that. And I can't think of what it feels like.
Maybe you were in the moment so much, but wouldn't you like to go back and feel it again, to actually have an opportunity to reflect on the euphoria that you're experiencing?
I'd like to, but it wouldn't be in my top 50.
Wow.
Because... I can tell you nearly how I got out in every game from being a child. Yeah. I can tell you all the failures. And for me, I wouldn't want to go and relive one of the good bits. I want to fix one of them things.
It's fascinating.
I did badly.
Fascinating.
When I got bowled at Lords in that first Ashes Test match, because I was sat in the dressing room before I went out to bat, having bottled it, sat there shaking, didn't know if I was Arthur or Martha, walking out to bat, not thinking, not even knowing what end at bat to hold, and then getting bowled by Glenn McGrath. Granted, it was a decent ball, but if I got forward, it'd have been all right. I'd sooner relive that than that other moment. Or when I got last test of 2005, when the game's in the balance, I'm in the form of my life, I think I can do anything. And then Shane Warne pops one up, previous over, I'd hit him straight over his head for 6. Same ball, and I'm thinking as it goes up, I'm hitting that for 6. That is going for 6. As it got closer, I bailed out and got caught and bowled when that game was in the balance. Luckily, Kevin Peterson came in. Actually,
this is at the Oval.
Yeah, came in, amazing. But I can't tell you about being on one knee and looking around Lords. I can now close my eyes and I can see that ball coming out of Shane Warne's hand. And the moment I hit it, knowing I'm going to be out, and I can tell you exactly what I could do. And I can do that on everything.
Just to put it in context, this is the Oval, one of the greatest victories in England Test match history.
Well,
and
we
you're
drew the
thinking
test. We drew the test, but
the series was won, and the drawing was a great triumph. The fact that, but you're looking back on the fact that you should have hit Shane Warne for 6 on that particular moment, and you got caught in bowl.
As good as I was during that series, and I'm not building myself up.
Yeah.
That, for me, was the biggest moment in that Test series, and I didn't come through.
Do you know, I interviewed Jack Nicklaus once, next to the old course at St Andrews, and he said almost exactly the same thing. I wanted him to relive his great moments. He said, no, but there was a putt that I went a little bit too bold, rolled a few feet past, I shouldn't have missed it coming back. He went, and you know, my club selection on this particular fairway at the US Open in 1982 as well. It's amazing.
Can I ask you a question then, Matthew? Do you think then the greatest sportsmen, because they are the greatest and in their field, relive the worst moments or the moments they could have done better because they are the greatest? Somebody like me, who wasn't the greatest, relives a joyful moment.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Is that I'm just
Well, do you know, we mentioned on the last podcast that people who excel, they want to know their weaknesses, what they could have done differently, what they could have done better. Because it's like this continual it's like a journey, isn't it? Excellence. And they're never satisfied. You know, and I do think there's something significant about that. I mean, I mentioned Jack Nicklaus. You know, Andy Murray isn't quite in that class, but again, he's really rankled by the things that he could have done better and that might have improved the performance.
What was yours then? What was yours?
Well, I'm like you, Robbie. I'm not one of the great. I'm thinking about.
Oh, we know that. Dylan, sorry, Dylan.
Table tennis number 1. 10 years. 10 years.
Thank you.
There's not that many table tennis players, though. Is it, Dylan?
30,000 people who pay a subscription to
What was yours?
1 million recreational players in this country. You mentioned Desmond Douglas. He was like my hero growing up. Born in Jamaica, came to England in the 60s, I think, became the top player, bit of an icon for Black Pride at that time, and he was such a great mentor to me coming through, quite a few years older than me, but when I got to 14, 15, he invited me and my brother to his home in Birmingham, and we trained with him, and then when I got into my late 20s, at the top. Douglas was in his 40s and had dropped off the top of the ranking. I played him in the final of the National Championships at Bath Leisure Centre. And the conditions weren't great for me because I'm a defender. Rob's going to fall asleep.
Yeah, you got your pimples, haven't you?
I got my pimples on the backhand, the sponge on the forehand. But it really helped me if there was a matte flooring, like a thick mat, because it slowed it down and you could see the ball better. Whereas on a normal sports centre floor with white lines and shiny, you could lose the ball against the backdrop. And it was a normal sports centre floor, and I thought, I can't beat Douglas in these conditions. The crucial thing was my brother was there. I mentioned him. You know, we trained together. He was my mentor. He was my best friend, but he had stopped playing table tennis because of injury, and he came to Bath to watch and coach me along with Dennis Neal, and it was one of the toughest matches. Huge regret. Remember, I almost cheated him in the fifth game. I went on to win, and the thing that I look back on with most fondness is there was a civic reception after. Des came along. I paid tribute to him, but it just gave me a chance to talk for a few minutes in front of an audience about my brother and what he meant to me and how much he had influenced my development, my psychology, how much he had supported me. And, you know, I don't know what you guys are like. You know, when you've got great friends, sometimes you're not necessarily that emotional with them, but it was great for him to hear in that context just what it meant. And that was a beautiful moment.
For me now, I'm just getting all these thoughts about how I got out in my head.
Yeah.
I would change them. One thing I'd change off the field was, after 2005 when we got MBEs.
Yes.
This is shocking, this is shocking. Right, we got... You go and get it, and you get 3 tickets for the crowd, right, in the Palace. And because I was a bit embarrassed about getting one, I just took Rachel, and I didn't use my other 2 tickets.
No.
And my mum and dad would have loved to have gone. Oh. But it wasn't. I didn't want my mum and dad there. I was just a bit like this is. I was a bit.
Didn't want to make. Like
I was talking last week about not being good with awards and things. Like winning's enough.
Yeah.
That I was a bit embarrassed by it, and I didn't take my mum and dad to the Palace, which really burns me now.
Who gave it to you, the Queen or Prince Charles?
Queen.
The Queen.
Oh, she turns up for big uns.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for listening. You can download the podcast for extended versions of all the topics we covered on this week's show at the 5 Live website and all the usual podcast places. Also, all the shows we've done today available to download there. Use the hashtag FredSavSide to get in touch through the week. If you could leave a review on iTunes and give us a rating, that would be great. We'll be back next week at the same time. But for now, from all of us, goodbye.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, coming up, the government has called for action within days following allegations of sexual harassment in Westminster. You're going to hear from 2 MPs on that subject. It's been reported in the US that Netflix's first and longest-running drama, House of Cards, will end after its 6th season following allegations against actor Kevin Spacey, and why South Ribble Council is restricting the number of dogs you can take for a walk.
First for news and more live Premier League football than anyone else. This is BBC 5 Live.
Hello, good evening. It's 10:30. You're listening to 5 Live. I'm Sam Walker, and this is the late news hour.
The main news on 5 Live: zero tolerance for sexual harassment at Westminster.
And in sport, Burnley are up to 7th in the Premier League after beating Newcastle.
This is BBC 5 Live.
Let's get the BBC News now. Here's Rachel Bland.
The government's promising to take action within days to deal with allegations of sexual harassment at Westminster. The Leader of the Commons, Andrea Leadsom, told MPs there would be a zero-tolerance approach in future. The Northern Ireland Secretary, James Brokenshire, has extended the deadline for the region's 2 main parties to reach a deal to restore power sharing. The DUP and Sinn Féin left Stormont shortly before the previous cut-off of 9 p.m. tonight without having reached a deal. A father and several of his children remain unaccounted for after a fire at their remote farmhouse in Powys in mid-Wales. 3 children managed to escape. The man's been named locally as Dave Cuthbertson. And President Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, has pleaded not guilty to charges of conspiring to defraud the US in his dealings with Ukraine. A federal judge has placed Mr Manafort under house arrest. Let's get some sport now. Here's Shojo.
Jeff Hendrick scored the only goal as Burnley beat Newcastle at Turf Moor. Sean Dyche's side are up to 7th in the Premier League. Watford captain Troy Deeney has been charged with violent conduct after clashing with Stoke's Joe Allen on Saturday. Jose Mourinho says striker Romelu Lukaku should be untouchable from fans' criticism. That's despite failing to score in his last 5 games for Manchester United. Bury have sacked manager Lee Clark after 8 months in charge. They're currently second bottom in League One. Warrington second row Ben Curry will replace the injured Sam Burgess in England's starting 13 when they face Lebanon at the Rugby League World Cup on Saturday. Bath winger Samesa Rokodaguni will replace the injured Elliot Daly in the England squad for the autumn internationals. He scored 7 tries in 7 Premiership matches this season. And after missing the last 9 months through injury, Tiger Woods has announced he will return to competitive golf at the tournament he's hosting in the Bahamas next month.
This is BBC 5 Live on digital, online, smartphone and tablet.
The weather, a milder night for many, with cloud in the north spreading to many parts overnight. Outbreaks of rain in the north, mainly across western Scotland, remaining dry elsewhere and chilly in the south under clear spells with a local frost possible. Lows overnight down to 8 to 11 degrees.
F1, the Mexico Grand Prix.
Only once this season has he finished outside of the top 5. Now make that twice with a 9th place finish. But it doesn't matter because Lewis Hamilton is a 4-time Formula 1 world champion. And 9th place in a dramatic Mexico City finale makes him the most successful British Formula 1 driver of all time.
I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone in this team. What you've done the past couple of years is just remarkable, and I'm just so grateful for your hard work this year. God bless you.
That's it, the 2017 title wrapped up.
Download the Checker Flight podcast now. F1 on 5 Live.
The late news hour
on 5 Live.
Hello, good evening. On the way, then, we'll find out exactly what it means for President Trump, as you heard in the news bulletin there with Rachel. It's been months, hasn't it, that Americans have been waiting the outcome of this investigation by Robert Mueller into whether Russian ties might have influenced the 2016 presidential election. There has been some movement. What does it mean? Some, if not all, will be revealed. We're also going to be talking about dogs. And the fact that one council in South Lancashire are actually going to limit the number of dogs that anyone can walk at any given time. You might think, why would someone want to walk a lot of dogs at once? Well, if you're a dog walker, that's kind of your business, isn't it? So I'd like to hear from you, 85058, of course, throughout this evening, whatever you would like to get in touch with. But going to start by talking about sexual harassment, because the government says that action is needed within days to deal with allegations of sexual harassment at Westminster. The Leader of the House of Commons, Andrew Flintoff, told MPs earlier that she wants a new grievance procedure to handle such complaints. She confirmed the Cabinet Office was investigating specific allegations about whether individuals had broken ministerial code, and outlined how she thought current procedures to deal with incidents like those should be reformed.
It is for Parliament to come together to resolve this, but the government believes there should be some guiding principles. First, as in any other workplace, everyone in Parliament should have the right to feel at ease as they go